We're going to get started now because I am sure all of you are as eager to see the last of me as quickly as possible, so let us not delay in that. Good evening, I'm Michael Lee. I'm the outgoing president of the Federal Bar Association. Did I say outgoing? I'm outgoing. And welcome to this annual dinner honoring judicial officers. The first thing that I want to do is acknowledge the people who helped make this possible, which is on the back of your program, the table sponsors. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. The second thing I want to do is honor the annual dinner co-chairs, because planning and pulling off one of these things is a lot more difficult than it looks. If they would stand as I call their names and hold your applause till the end. Michael Blaylock from Dykema, Kevin Fanning from Clark Hill, Linda Hylinsky, career law clerk to Chief Judge Gerald Rosen, Jason Klingensmith from Dickinson Wright, and Emily Tyler from Littler Middleton. Please join me in thanking them for their hard work. And now I would like to introduce the judicial officers. If they could stand, please hold your applause. Chief Judge Gerald Rosen, the Honorable Avern Cohn, the Honorable Nancy Edmonds, the Honorable Paul Borman, the Honorable Denise Page Hood, the Honorable George Stee, the Honorable Marianne Batani, the Honorable David Lawson, the Honorable Art Tarnow, the Honorable Mark Goldsmith, the Honorable Gershwin Drain, the Honorable Terrence Berg, and the newly honorables, the Honorable Judith Levy, the Honorable Lori Michelson, the Honorable Matt Lightman, and the Honorable Linda Parker, Bankruptcy Judge Stephen Rhodes, Bankruptcy Judge Walter Shapiro, and Magistrate Judge Michael Luchanik. Please join me in thanking the judicial officers. And now I would like to welcome to the podium for further welcoming remarks the Chief Judge of the Eastern District of Michigan, the Honorable Joe Rosen.
Thank you very much. I'd like to just begin by thanking Mike for his service this past year. And the great work that he's done in building the relationship, building on Tom McNeil's great year of service, and building the relationship with our court and with the rest of the bar. Mike's done just a terrific job. And Mike, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess my primary role right now, I'll be back to the podium for a labor of love in just a little bit. But my primary role right now is to thank the Federal Bar Association on behalf of my colleagues and our entire court family for continuing this wonderful relationship that we have with the Federal Bar Association. I've said before that as I travel around the country and talk to my Chief Judge counterparts in other districts, we are truly unique around the country in the relationship that our bench has been able to build with the Federal Bar Association. We have one of the closest and most productive relationships in the entire country between a federal court and a Federal Bar Association chapter. And I think it's largely because of the way in which the chapter and its officers reach out to our bench and engage us. So for all of us, this annual dinner is an opportunity for my bench to say thank you to the Federal Bar Association for all of the work and support that you give, not only to our bench, but to the federal practice legal community in general. So on behalf of my colleagues, thank you very much. And now the real purpose of the evening, which is the election of the next set of officers. And I'll be back to talk to you in just a little bit about the recipient of the Cook-Friedman Civility Award.
Another round of applause for Chief Judge Gerald Rosen. I also want to acknowledge a couple other people before we get to the elections. One is Chief Judge Rosen. As he mentioned, although as usual he downplayed it, our secret weapon in this chapter is our relationship with the bench. There are conference calls monthly from leaders all across the nation of chapters, and to hear some of them talk is heartening because they're working hard and they're building vibrant chapters. But it also reiterates to me how much further ahead we are, because on some of the calls, chapter leaders will brag about having gotten one judge to come to one program. We don't have that problem, but that's a key because practitioners want to come and listen to and hear and ask questions of judicial officers. So without the support and participation of the bench, our programs will be a lot less effective. Our programs are so effective that we have in fact won the Chapter Activity Award nationally for our programs. And that is no coincidence. And it's because we do put on quality programs. And it's because we do have participation of decision makers in those programs, which makes people want to come. And it's all the more important in this state because this is not a CLE state. In CLE states, they don't really have to hustle because sooner or later, everybody's going to come to at least one of their programs. But we've got to draw people to our programs. And on behalf of the chapter, I want to thank you, Judge Rosen, and the members of the bench for participating and helping making our chapter, our activities a success. Thank you. I also want to thank Judge Mark Goldsmith, who introduced me to this chapter and got me involved in leadership. So to the extent you're dissatisfied with me, take it out on him. It's his fault. But I want to publicly thank him. This has been a great experience and I would not have traded it for anything. I want to thank my friends from the Straker Bar Association who were kind enough to purchase a table. Straker was the first board I was on, back in 1997. I'm still here, unable to extricate myself from this web of bar activities. For people who keep asking what I'm going to do next, quite candidly, I don't know. Hopefully nothing. I also want to thank my friends from the OCBA, whose board I also sit on now, for their support. And another personal thank you, and I see him back there putting a glass to his mouth. I want to thank Tom McNeil, who a couple of years ago when I became president-elect included me in his leadership inner circle, sought out my opinion, laid the groundwork for my presidency, and was always very inclusive. Tom, thank you very much for your leadership and help. And I want to thank the officers. The officers meet monthly, and there are more challenges than I ever thought before I took on this task. But by the time I found out what they were, it was already June of 2013, and there was no way to get out of it. But the officers were very supportive of me through this year. They helped me get through it. And of course, this was not the easiest year for reasons not having to do with me or them, or any of you, by the way. So I want to publicly thank them for their support. Thank you. I also would like for a moment for all the past presidents of this organization to stand. Past presidents, stand up. In no small part, I stand on their shoulders. They laid the groundwork for me to be here and for this organization to be in the shape it's in. We have more than 1,000 members, we have money in the bank, and we are in the black. As Court of Appeals Judge Mike Reardon said, and a bit of advice that has been passed down from president to president. Dear God, don't let me screw this up. I do not think that I have screwed this up, and it has been through no small measure the efforts of the previous presidents who did it so well that even I couldn't screw this up. So thank you for all you've done. For the members of the executive board, thank you for coming to those meetings monthly, which were a challenge. And last but not least, the committee chairs. If all the committee co-chairs could stand for just a moment. As I said, the key to this organization is the programming we put on, and that's because of the efforts of the committee co-chairs. It is up to them when to put on programming and how to put it on, but our programming has been successful and it's been recognized nationally. So again, thank all of you for the work you've done. And with your indulgence in just a moment, our newest officer will join our ranks. That will be Program Chair Sarah Sahu from Miller Canfield. The officers have had their eye on Sarah for a long time. Don't try to run now, Sarah. You're not getting out of this. The good news is, welcome to the team. The bad news is, the program chair officer position is the most difficult. So after this year, it'll be all downhill. You'll be smiling like me a year from now. Thank you and welcome. What can I say? Brian Figgett. Brian had some challenges this year, but he came through them. Brian was always there. I sent him emails at all odd hours, called him at all odd hours, even drove him around a couple times and argued with him when he was not wearing a cap in January in cold temperature. But Brian was always there. We do not have a greater single resource in this organization than Brian Figgett. Thank you, my friend. Okay, on to the elections. In your program are the nominees. So first, I'm going to take them in order, officers, and then executive board in two separate elections. The officers are for President-elect Kim Altman, career law clerk to Judge Avern Cohn. For Vice President Susan Gillooly, Assistant United States Attorney. For Secretary Treasurer Jeff Apple of Law Offices of Jeff Apple. And as Program Chair Sarah Sahu. Would those folks stand so people can see who they're voting for? So, I will entertain a motion to approve that slate of officers. Properly moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. For the executive board, for the terms ending in 2017, the Honorable Matthew Lightman, United States District Court Judge. The Honorable Thomas Tucker, United States Bankruptcy Judge. Matthew Allen of Miller Canfield. Christine Farinola, career law clerk to the Honorable Paul Komoviz. Fred Herman, Kerr, Russell, and Weber. Linda Hylinsky, career law clerk to Chief Judge Gerald Rosen. And Vanessa Mays of the United States Attorney's Office. For terms ending in 2016, the Honorable Victoria Roberts, United States District Court Judge. Mona Mazub, United States Magistrate Judge. Richard Helfrich, Federal Defender's Office. Andrew Levincy, Assistant United States Attorney. Matthew Lund, Pepper Hamilton. John Nussbaumer, John Cooley, Thomas Cooley Law School. And Frank Ortiz at Dickinson Wright. And finally, for executive board terms ending in 2015, the Honorable David Lawson, United States District Court Judge. The Honorable David Grand, United States Magistrate Judge. Hala Jarbu, Assistant United States Attorney. Thomas Sorty, O'Reilly Rancilio. Gregory Murray, Veracruz, Murray, and Calzone. Daniel Quick, Dickinson Wright. And Susan Woodward, United States Attorney. Please stand up once again so people know for whom they are voting. Is there a motion to approve these individuals for executive board positions? Properly moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. You all are up on the new Robert's Rules of Order? It's faster this way, believe me. Finally, are there any nominations from the floor? Hearing none? Okay. All right. Now, my last task is to introduce your next president. He is Tom Shearer Dykema. One of the beauties of Tom being your next president is the way we complement each other. The things at which he excels are things at which I don't necessarily excel. And you need that because that's what makes a board. Each person sort of complementing the other. Tom, I am sure, will take this organization to even greater heights. I like his ideas. He's working on some new things that I'm sure you're going to find exciting in the next year or two as he brings them to your attention as you see them. So with no further ado, let me introduce you to the next president of the Federal Bar Association, Tom Shearer.
Thank you. Stay here with me. Okay. Thank you, Michael, for that very kind introduction. And thank you, members of the bench and the bar, for the opportunity you've given to me to be the chapter president. I've asked Michael to stay up here with me because I have some very nice things that I would like to say about him and also to present him with the plaque. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last year of the Federal Bar Association, we have been led by a tremendous leader in Michael Lee. We have over 900 paying members of our organization and over 1,000 overall, which makes us one of the largest chapters in the country. For the 11th year in a row, we won the Best Newsletter Award from FBA National. We also won an award for Chapter Excellence from FBA National, which we are very proud of. We put on over 40 programs this last year through the work of our excellent committee chairs. We are poised to finish the year on budget, and we have outstanding support from our bench, as demonstrated by the fact that we have 21 federal judges here tonight, which according to Brian Figgett is a record, and who's going to dispute Brian's knowledge of the FBA. I've had the privilege of serving with Michael Lee as an officer over the last several years. I've gotten to know him very well. I can assure all of you that he is as genuine as he seems. He conducts himself in a dignified way and in an understated way that commands the respect of all of those who work with him. So on behalf of the Federal Bar Association, I have a plaque that I would like to present to Michael Lee for his years of service. And I have it right here. And it says, "To Michael Lee, President, 2013-2014, sensible, reliable, gracious, and poised." Please join me in a round of applause for our outgoing President, Michael Lee. Brian Figgett will now do the annual presentation of the books to Michael Lee.
Okay, we got a few books for Michael, because now that he isn't going to be president anymore, he will have the time and the predisposition, I think, to read them. Some of them deal with the fact that he has been such an incredibly good president. So we start with a book called The Presidency versus Hoover, published in 1928, that begins with, "What difference does it make who is president?" Makes a big difference when it's Michael. Big, big difference. This book went on to extol the virtues of Herbert Hoover and how great he was going to be for the country. We have Bill Lawrence, and I think a lot of the journalists, and it was very good, the programming that we had with both Sarah and Michael Lee this year, recognizing journalists. We have Bill Lawrence, the 40-year memoirs of a Washington correspondent, 6 presidents, too many wars. And my 50 years covering the White House by Sarah McClendon, Mr. President, Mr. President, trying to get his ear. And then we've got, for somebody who knew the president for a long time, This I Remember by Eleanor Roosevelt, both because I think that she's somebody that Michael and I both hold in very high esteem, and because when I opened this book when I was at John King, no matter where I opened it, I could hear her speaking. We drove into the White House grounds by the southeast gate, and they were married in the White House on July 30 at noon, and so on. Then, because Michael sees both sides, in fact, if there's only 2 sides, he'll point out that somebody isn't being heard. We have, on the one hand, the faith and values of Sarah Palin, what she believes and what it means to America. And on the other hand, going rogue, Sarah Palin, an American nightmare. And because he sees both sides, I saw this book and I couldn't pass it up. The Other Side by James A. Pike. I didn't realize until I opened it up when I got home that it was not a book about being even-tempered or anything like that. It was a book about communing with the dead. The Tumult and the Shouting by Grantland Rice. This is a book because not only is there the tumult and the shouting when you're the president and you have to hear all of it, but because Grantland Rice was one of the great baseball writers, and both Michael and I are both 2 of the greatest baseball fans, which is what led to the book that he probably had as a kid, and I certainly had as a kid, the second revised edition of the Official Encyclopedia of Baseball. This was before all the statistics went wild. It was published in 51 and recopyrighted in 59. It was the second edition, and it's probably the one that you grew up with. Well, your mother may have thrown it away, but you got it back again. And then finally, because he is also, this is getting out of hand, a news junkie, page 1, Major Events as Seen in the New York Times. And I hope that he enjoys this. It really takes you back all the way to, well, you got King George, not that one. Supreme Court upholds newspapers on publication of the Pentagon Papers. British and French push toward landing. Hungary, just everything that you possibly want to read about, all the major events as you saw them in the New York Times. Well, maybe you didn't see some of them in the New York Times, but you saw most of them, many of them anyway. And that's the books we've got this year. I hope that he enjoys them as much as I've enjoyed working with him this past year. Michael, thank you. Okay.
Just 3 bag them.
Yep. Yep. And he is, by the way, a major lending library if anybody wants to borrow any of these. Oh, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And by the way, immediate past president does not mean able to take a year off.
Are you kidding? I'm on milk cartons already. Ladies and gentlemen, the new president of the Federal Bar Association, Tom Shear.
Thank you. Michael, I know you're happy to hear the 3 favorite words of any FBA president, which are immediate past president. We look forward to working with you as an officer over the next year, Michael. I'm excited to be following in Michael's footsteps. He leaves the Federal Bar Association in a very great situation, but I'm excited for a number of other reasons as well, not the least of which is that I began my legal career in the federal courthouse 17 years ago as a law clerk to Judge Avern Cohn. Judge Cohn is one of the smartest and most intellectually curious persons that I've ever met in my life, and I enjoyed my clerkship immensely, and it means a lot to me that he is here tonight. But I enjoyed my clerkship not only because of my opportunity to work for Judge Cohn, but also because I became associated with the court family. And I was fortunate to realize at the end of my clerkship that the best way to stay associated with the court family is to join the Federal Bar Association. Now, I've had some very talented people that I've worked with over the years. Certainly there are too many to mention here tonight, but there are three in particular that I would like to point out in terms of helping me through the FBA, and I'd like to point them out right now. The first is my good friend, Elisa Angeli Polizzi. Elisa and I go way back to our clerking days with Judge Cohn. Elisa is a past president of this organization, and she was the first person who encouraged me to get involved in the FBA. And she said not only should I join, but I should become actively involved because that is the best way to derive satisfaction from your FBA membership. So Elisa, I'm truly grateful to you for that advice. The second person I'd like to thank is Judge Lori Michelson. Judge Michelson was the incoming president when I became the program chair, which is the first step on the officer ladder. I know she had a big role in my being named as program chair. She was also the first president I had the opportunity to serve under. She set a tremendous example as president that I hope to follow. And for that, Judge Michelson, I'm grateful to you. And the last person I would like to thank is our executive director, Brian Figgin. Now, he's already received some recognition, but I've worked with him closely over the last year, and I'm sure many of you know that he suffered through some health problems over the last year. But I'm pleased to report to all of you that he has come through those stronger and more invigorated than I have ever seen him, and he is very enthusiastic about continuing as executive director to the FBA. So I would ask that you give another round of applause for Brian Figgin to show our appreciation for him. So let's look forward. We have three priorities as an officer group that we'd like to focus on over the next year. The first is our website. Over the last year, our website has been the subject of some substantial investment in terms of what I would call the back office components of the website. These investments were designed to make Brian's job easier and more efficient. I'm pleased to report that that process is now complete. So over the next year, what we intend to focus on is polishing up the homepage to our website, which frankly is a bit dated. We've got the great folks from Computing Source who are going to help us do that. We're going to polish it up in an effort to drive more value and content to the membership. So hopefully sooner rather than later, you will see a new FBA homepage rolled out. The second thing we'd like to focus on is our Young Lawyers section, which is known as the RISE Committee. This is a group of talented young lawyers who are very interested in federal court practice. We are putting on a program on July 22nd at the Fountain Bistro in downtown Detroit, and effectively what we're going to do is to move the 12th annual FBA summer program from the federal courthouse over to the Fountain Bistro. We're going to have it at 5 o'clock, we're going to have a cocktail, and we're going to have some fun with it, so hopefully you can all join us for that RISE program. And then the last thing that we would like to focus on as an officer group is making sure that we drive value to the membership. Certainly an enhanced website will allow us to do that, but we also want to make sure that we're vigilant in terms of the expenses that we have as an organization to ensure that we're driving value in terms of the programming that we put on. And I'm confident that with the excellent officer group that I have the pleasure of working with, that we'll be able to accomplish those goals and more over the next year. So those are our priorities. And it's time now to move on to what I know most of you are here to see, which is the presentation of the 7th Annual Cook-Friedman Civility Award to an extremely worthy recipient, and here to do that is Chief Judge Rosen. Thanks, Judge.
I said I'd be back, and I am, for a labor of love. As Tom indicated, my role here tonight is to present the 7th Annual Cook-Friedman Civility Award to Eugene Dreiker. And my only question to the Federal Bar Association is, what took so long? Eugene is a remarkable person, absolutely remarkable, and so deserving of this award. It would take me until midnight, which is the time that he and I have recently stopped talking. Some of you may not know he is a co-mediator of the Detroit bankruptcy. I'm going to talk a little more about that. But it would take me until midnight to talk about all of his many virtues and his history, not only in the bar, but in the working for the city and the state. But this is, for me, truly a labor of love. So I hope you will indulge me. Eugene said I should keep it to 25 words. It would take me many more than 25 words just to talk about his passion for the Detroit Tigers. But a mark of Eugene's dedication, commitment to not just the city of Detroit, but to our profession, was brought home to me last July when I was first named as the judicial mediator in the Detroit bankruptcy case. And the first person I called to help me with this was Eugene Dreiker. I happened to catch him. He was up north. He was bicycling on a road. And you know, most people would say, "Can I call you back?" But not Eugene. When I told him what it was about, he said, "Wait a minute, let me get off my bike." And he pulled over on the side and we talked for about 20 minutes. And he immediately said yes. And since then, he has become the most committed, dedicated champion of bringing Detroit back to what we all hope it would be. I could tell you story after story after story of Eugene's tenacity, his commitment, his dedication to Detroit, and what it's meant to all of us in the mediation process. I can say quite literally, we would not be where we are today if it wasn't for Eugene Dreiker. And he's done it all with remarkable civility, courtesy, never flagging in his equanimity and his treatment of the lawyers. When some of us want to go out and take the lawyers to task, Eugene is the voice of reason in the room. I call him Yoda because he is truly a Jedi master. And I wish everybody could see what Eugene brings to this process. He is just, last September he was awarded by the State Bar Association the Champion of Justice, and I always introduce him as the Dean of the Michigan Bar. I don't mean to slight anybody else, but he is truly the Dean of the Michigan Bar, and he has been the Dean of our mediation efforts. He is just, his performance as a mediator has reflected his values, his passion for Detroit, and his unswerving dedication to this cause has been an inspiration, and not just for me. It's been an inspiration for all of our mediators, and it's been an inspiration for all of the parties. To be able to have somebody like Eugene, whose equanimity and whose even temper has gotten us through. We refer to some of the mediations as life in the Shark Tank because it is intense and highly contentious. And his ability to get all of us through this has just been unparalleled, just unparalleled. As I said, I could go on and on. Eugene, I know you told me to keep this short. I'll just give a couple of examples. We talk all day long, every day almost. My wife walks in, I'm on the phone, she says, "Are you on the phone with Eugene?" and all night. We were talking about 12:30 one night, and we finished up, and he said, take the rest of the night off. And we started emailing at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And always with good humor. He always has a joke to start, or a funny story to start the conversation and to end the conversation, even when it's not such a happy conversation. Now, it's true that some of our conversations are about the Tigers. My wife thought that there was no one in the world that had a passion for the Detroit Tigers like I have. I think she would agree that I've met my match with Eugene Dreiker. And I think his passion for the Detroit Tigers is just emblematic of the passion that he has for Detroit, but also for his role as a mediator and as a lawyer in assisting to bring Detroit back to where we all want it to be. So Eugene, it is a personal pleasure and a privilege to be able to call you up to present to you the 7th Annual Julian Abel Cook and Bernard A. Freeman Civility Award, named after two of my dearest, most beloved colleagues, and I cannot imagine a more worthy, deserving recipient than Eugene Dreiker. So I'd ask all of you to stand. Hope I've got the right box. There's about 5 of them under here.
Thank you all. I pointed out to Judge Rosen that he was the only thing between you and dinner, and
I said, no, you are.
yes, and I urged him to be brief. There are many, many people who are responsible for me being here today. I had great teachers at the Wayne Law School, great mentors at the Department of Justice, where I started my legal career, and then in the private practice of law, great partners, many of whom are here. Chief Judge Rosen, who, with my good fortune, appointed me to this mediation position, which I thoroughly enjoy. Somebody asked me if it's fun. That's not the word that immediately comes to mind, but it has been exciting and challenging and remarkably rewarding. But with all of those people to thank and acknowledge, there's really one person who is really responsible for all of this. My dear wife, who has suffered through 55 years of being my partner and comrade in putting up with, some of you will understand what this word means, perhaps others will not, the mishigas of practicing law, okay? The bizarre quality of being a lawyer and being called by clients and judges and co-mediators morning, noon, and night. She's put up with this we celebrated our 55th anniversary 2 days ago, and I salute her for sticking through thick and thin and enabling me to get this kind of recognition. Thank you, Judge Rosen, and thanks to the Federal Bar Association for this wonderful recognition.
I actually wrote down here to thank Elaine and my wife Lori as well for putting up with Eugene and I, our late night calls, whether about the Detroit bankruptcy or about the Tigers. So, honey, thank you. Elaine, thank you.
Thank you, Judge Rosen and Mr. Dreiker. I want to acknowledge the other Cook-Friedman Civility Award winners who are here in our presence tonight. Ed Kronk, Larry Campbell, Carl Von Endy, and Kathy Humphrey.